Hello, welcome to Solo Strategic Playthroughs. My name is Jeff, and today I'm going to be starting a campaign of Open Owl Studios' Stonesaga. And this is going to be a solo playthrough. I'll actually be playing two-handed, so two characters. And if you've never been to the channel before, the focus here is on strategic play and the choices I make. I'm going to talk through everything. I'm not going to teach you how to play the game. You can certainly get that from other videos, but I will explain things as I go along. So if you don't know the rules yet, if you're looking to learn how to play, this is not a learn to play video, but it will certainly help. One thing, there are going to be plenty of spoilers since I'm going to be going through various decks. Now with crafting, I am going to give a spoiler warning, so you can kind of look away when I show you what things I'm going to be combining. I want to actually say that out loud. That way, you'll see the tools I create, but if you want to figure out some of these recipes on your own, which is really one of the core things about this game, then you'll be able to do that. So let's get things started. You can see I've got everything laid out here. As I said, I'm going to be playing the Whispers of the Northwind campaign. That is one of the starting campaigns once you have already done the tutorial. So starting fresh, if you already know what you're doing, I'm not going to say that I know what I'm doing. I mean, I have played through the tutorial and a little bit of the follow-up campaign to that. The Whispers of the Northwind just kind of combines them into one. So rather than say, okay, first you learn how to do this, then this, then this, just kind of throw you in and you have to decide what order you want to do things. So that is where I'll be going. I am using contents from both expansions. Now, my main focus is still going to be kind of the core game, but there are a bunch of cards. You can see here I've got the Journey and Night decks that are going to have various random events come up, and a bunch of cards are from those expansions. So all mixed together, which you can certainly do the first time you're playing. I actually haven't even experienced those mechanics yet, so as I get to them, as I unlock them, well, we'll figure them out together. Now, in Stonesaga, you are a fledgling civilization, just kind of getting out of your sheltered valley, going out into the world. There are actually, with the expansion, in the base set, there's two different starting zones you can have. I am starting in the same one you would start in the tutorial. There is a third starting zone called the Tangle from one of the expansions, which I am not going to do yet. That is something I could potentially explore later in this campaign. But the very first thing you have to do, no matter what, whether you're doing the tutorial or a regular campaign, is create your characters. And now, unlike in some games like Gloomhaven, you create a character, you play it a whole bunch, and then eventually it retires, you unlock a new one. Well, in Stonesaga, eventually your characters die. It might happen during the game as you're going out and braving the wild, suffering injuries and maladies, or it might just happen from the passage of time and old age. Again, as that happens, we will get into those mechanics, but for right now, starting fresh with the first two people in my civilization. And in order to do that, we take one of the blank character cards and we have to roll their attributes and assign some dice and traits. I'm going to roll 5 6-sided dice. Total needs to be 14 or more, or I'll re-roll them all. That's a pretty good roll. Total definitely 14 or more. Then going to remove the lowest, and I will be able to assign those 4 dice among the 4 attributes, however I see fit. All right, so I've gone ahead and assigned the numbers to my first character. Again, that's an incredibly good roll. 6s to both physical attributes in might and dexterity, and 4s to awareness and conviction are the other 2 abilities. And then part of that, and so I've also marked that this character is young, checked off, and traits. There are 5 options you have at the start of the game, and you don't really know what that means other than, what the word means, but there are going to be game effects that say, hey, if you have this trait, it may affect your roll or your ability or what you do. So in this case, I have chosen to make her indomitable, and actually, let's take a look at that character board. So when you're creating characters, you assign to them one of 4 different mantles, or a 5th one if you're playing with the expansions. And those are kind of just a broad definition of the role, and the character can change their mantles as they advance in their career. I am starting out as a protector, but who knows, one day when she's older she might be the storyteller. But for now she is a protector. You can see I've slid the card right in there. I've also given her a mantle power, which you don't do in the tutorial, but when you're starting the base campaign, during setup it will give you access to the basic mantle powers, one for each class. So she's actually got an ability which is going to give her +2 to champion tests, whatever those are. I haven't run into that yet. I think they come on night cards. And then a flip ability, of course, makes sense for the protector to be able to prevent people from taking injuries. I've also got her energy laid out. When you're playing a two-player game, as I am with two characters, you have all 5 slots fill, fewer slots if you're playing with fewer players. And also how far you go up the malady track before you are in danger of dying also depends on the number of players. So that is the protector character. Now let's roll up the other one. We'll see how we do here. Can my luck be that good again? No. But a 6 and a 5, so I'm not going to complain. 11, 12, 13, 14, yeah, 17, so it's good enough. We take out the 1, and then I assign the other 4. I've decided to assign the 6 to conviction, the 5 to awareness, the 2 to might, and the 3 to dexterity. So he is not very strong. He is, however, intrepid. And you also might be wondering, why have I written the traits so small? Because you will be gaining more of them as you play the game. So just leaving myself space to write those down. The first time I played, I just filled in all the space with one big word. Yeah, you don't want to do that. So learn by doing. Now taking a look at his mantle. I'm actually going to make one quick change to the characters. You can see I've decided to put the 6 in dexterity and the 3 in conviction. And I also went ahead and switched the other character, moving the 6 to conviction, 4 for dexterity. A couple reasons for that. Dexterity and conviction are the stats you need in order to make fire. So I want them both to be able to be good at that. And also, if I'm going to have the protector with a very good strength, able to be good at fighting, then I want my other character, who I have given the mantle of the wanderer, to be very good at dexterity so that he can run away from things. So you can see here, I've chosen the mantle of the wanderer. Makes sense, since we need to explore this valley for our burgeoning society. His starting mantle power lets him get +2 to journey tests. So as he is exploring, he'll have a better chance of success there. Not to mention his special ability, and the special ability can be used once per day, is he can actually look at the top card of the journey deck and either perform that card or put it on the bottom of the deck. So a little bit of scouting ahead. And so now that we've got our characters, all that's left to do is name them. And maybe a bit hard to see the text, but I feel like this is a sibling pair of young people, one going out, getting himself into trouble, the other having to keep an eye on him, but both of them finding their way in trouble. This is Hansel and Gretel. All right, having set up my characters, the next step is to choose my challenge. This being the start of a new campaign, I do have to do a campaign start one, and as I mentioned, I'm doing Whispers of the North Wind. You can see the text. What I'm not going to be doing in these videos generally is a lot of the narrating. I'll leave that to you. I will be throwing stuff up on screen, but mostly just kind of my own narratively describing what happens as we get ready to explore. It tells you which goals to put into play, and then flip the card. So I'm actually first going to just quickly run through those goals. The main goal of this scenario is to establish an outpost. Pretty straightforward. I could do that right where my people start out, or I may want to explore first. Probably not, although the main goal probably not going to be the first one I work on. I've got a few ongoing goals I have to worry about, one of which is gather stores, and so I have to collect food, pile it on the card, and if I'm short, then I am going to be building up unrest. I don't want my people to be upset right off the start, so that will probably be my number one priority to get this one accomplished. We've also got a couple of other goals. Seek the Omen, just kind of tying into the game mechanic that lets you look for omens on various game components. Omen, something we'll get into as we start revealing cards from the night deck. Although I guess we do have a starting omen from our challenge. Also, Stoke the Flame, learning to harness the power of fire. That is something we'll probably, hopefully, do fairly quickly as well. Finally, from the expansion, Seek the Tangle, since that is one of the starting areas you could do is the Tangle, but since I'm not starting there, I would then have to look for it. Not really going to think too much about this one, but it is technically in play. Now, flipping over to the other side of the challenge card, you can see it tells us to read some text and also shows us that ultimately our goal is to build a village, which will come after establishing an outpost, no doubt. So we'll get to that. Also, thresholds of when certain events are going to happen. Again, you'll see how those mechanics work as we go along. So here from the app is 889, which shows you all the setup you need to do, cards to shuffle into the deck. Again, this is all basic starting stuff once you're playing the regular campaign. All of this stuff doesn't, with the tutorial, none of this stuff happens until the end of the tutorial. Once you finish the tutorial, it has you read the same section and make all the same changes. And scrolling down, you can see that it also shows you talking about how to set up the map. I've actually did the random roll here to place a glacier. I'll show you that in a moment. And then also, if you're using the expansions, which cards you need to shuffle into the mix and what you need to do. Now that we've got everything set up, I've back open my tracker that I set up. We are in Epoch 1. You'll play 3 epochs. It is the first day, and you can see the various stats. Activity, that's going to tell you that's going to advance every round. Other things that might advance it as well, and that's going to trigger certain game events. And if you take too long, bad things will happen. Lore, that's a spendable resource that will accumulate as we learn more about the world around us. And population starts at 8, and then unrest, like I said, starts at 0. We do not want population to go to 0. We don't want unrest to go to 20. All right, so this is the starting hex for the region I'm starting in, and we've got a lake, a forest, a cave, a chasm, so lots of different options available to us. Hansel and Gretel are on the map. What I was talking about before, you can see setting up this section, which is not part of the tutorial. We've got a glacier here that's going to make this impassable, and then also whatever tiles underneath here, we don't know yet, is currently blocked by this rather fiendish-looking glacier tile. So we'll find out more about what that's about when we go to explore it, but now it's time to get into day 1. I mentioned wanting to put up my food stores as my priority, so we don't get too much unrest. We do need to prepare for the winter. So really, I've got 2 options. I can either go fishing or I can go foraging. I feel like foraging probably the better option here. I can get up to 3 resources. That's a little harder, and maybe even more if I get lucky. That's a little harder to do with fishing. There's random elements to both, but I feel like fishing even a lot more random. It's kind of the roll of the dice. It's a little bit more calculated with foraging. So that is going to cost me 2 energy because I haven't depleted this terrain or done any other actions here yet. I'll have Gretel go ahead and do that. Since we're going foraging in a forest, I will go ahead and shuffle up the forest deck, and then I'm going to draw 2 cards, and I can decide which one I want to start with. All right, so this is one of several fun little mini games in here. You can see from the initial 2 cards, you're going to be potentially harvesting things from the foreground. That's the green section. The midground is the brown. And then in the distance, you kind of have to work your way back. But the cards don't have to be in order. You can bounce back and forth. You can even potentially visit the same card twice in sequence. However, in order to do that, like I said, you need to start at the bottom, and you don't have to make that decision until you're done. You can also only collect 1 type of primary resource. I'm thinking what I really want to focus on is if I can get them are the nut bushes. Now, nuts are an interesting type of food. They come unprocessed. You have to bang a rock or something against them to get those nuts opened. However, for gather stores, it's okay if they're unprocessed. So even though I can't bang open my nuts, yeah, I said that. Even though I cannot process any nuts I harvest from the bush, that's fine. They'll still achieve the goal. And they're probably one of the easier things to collect here. Although also there is a fish in the water. So that would actually give me water and fish if I do that. So that is definitely the card I want to keep. That leaves me with the most options. So the card I didn't choose gets shuffled back in, and a lot of shuffling going on with these. I'm just going to kind of side shuffle them. I do not have sleeves for them, and also the sleeves, I guess normally I would sleeve them, but sleeves don't go great with the glare they cause on camera. So we will manage. I will just be nice to my cards, and then go ahead and I will draw 2 more, and we will see what we get. And this is really good. Not only is there a nut bush in both of them, so either card good for that. This one has some extra stuff. There's some bone sticking out in the ground. That's a bonus resource that you collect in addition to the primary resource you're going for. You might also notice there is a predator lurking far in the background on this card. And that is the danger that you run into when foraging, is that a predator might come after you. However, that's only based on the cards you have already selected. So in this case, because there's no predator in any of the cards I already have, I get to choose either of these cards. I'm going to choose this one. It's the better one for what I'm looking for anyway. And no predator, which means I can now draw 2 more cards. And there is one card that has in the deck, of the 15 cards in the deck, that has the predator in the foreground. If you're forced to put that in play, then you have to face the predator. You can either fight it, which, while I am very strong, would be rather difficult right now, as I don't have any kind of weapon, even though in the picture she does. We have to craft those tools. That'll come later. But since there's only one of those in the deck, I don't have any risk at this point. So I will definitely draw 2 more cards and pick one. And so looking at the 2 cards here, you can see I got the card I'm looking for. That's a nutbush in the background. And I do not want that predator, so we will choose that one. Shuffle it back in. I mean, I could keep going at this point, and potentially maybe I find another nut bush, but I feel like that's good enough. I could have bad luck. I could draw 2 cards with close-up predator, and I could suddenly find things. I guess even then I'd be okay. I would just take one of them, but I'm good. I'm just going to stop here and collect my resources. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here. I'll get nuts from here, here, and here, along with any bonus resources only attached to that. I'm harvesting the nuts, so ignoring things like trees and the water. So I'll get 3 nuts and a bone. Having successfully foraged, I'm going to go ahead, and at any time it says I can do it, so not like I can eat these. I'll put all 3 on the Gather Stores card. So we're just trying to get to 5 by the end of the day, off to a really good start. And then I've got the bone in Gretel's pack. Fun mechanic there that you've got the oddly shaped bag. At the end of the night, you have to reconcile. Everything has to fit in that space without overlapping. But until then, you can pile up stuff and use it, trade it, potentially eventually trade it around. One other thing we need to do. When you do either the gather, fishing, or mining action, that does deplete the resources in the area. So we will put a depletion token here, and that'll go away at nighttime. But it also means any of those 3 actions that I take for the rest of this day are going to be at a +1 energy cost. That's it. That was really successful. I'm going to do it again. If this were a learning to play video, if I were trying to teach you stuff, I might do fishing now to see what that's like. But it remains, just for this particular thing, nuts are the easiest to get in bulk. I am going to need water. I'm also going to need food that I can actually eat. I will have Hansel work on that on his turn. Let's see if I can have some more success foraging. This time it is going to cost me 3 energy, but I am going to have Gretel do that again. So she spent 2, and now she'll spend her other 3. I must have made too much noise last time I went into the forest because this time the predators are aware of me. This is the dreaded predator attacks card I was talking about. Fortunately, I don't have to choose it. I do get to still, for my first card, choose which one. Well, there's a nut bush all the way back. Actually, there's two nut bushes in the back there, along with a predator. So I am certainly not going to take this card, but things are going to be a little trickier this time. Important to note that there is no forest discard pile. Every time you draw from the forest deck, you are shuffling the unpicked cards back into the mix. This is a much better draw. No predators on either of these cards. If there were a predator, I'd have to take it. And if there were multiple choices of predators, I'd have to take the one closer to me. So fortunately, not the case. So Nutbush in the foreground, Nutbush in the middle. I'm actually going to take the one in the middle because even if my luck turns bad and I'm not able to get a Nutbush in the foreground, I do have a fish and water available there. So shuffling up and drawing the next two cards. Well, the fates are with me today. I did draw, actually both cards have a predator. The one that has a predator closer in play also has Nutbush in the foreground. So that is the card. I don't have a choice. That's the one I have to take. That's the card I want. We're good. I'm just going to collect. Again, being able to bounce around. This time, 1, 2, 3, 4 nuts. There might be bonus resources on here, but I don't see them. So I'm just going to collect my 4 nuts and be done. So now you might notice that, well, first of all, this is now depleted even more. So we flip that over. Now any action I take, any of those 3 actions. So I could still go to the lake, get water. It's going to cost 1 energy. I don't have to pay any extra. That doesn't deplete. It would take quite something to deplete just taking out like a bucket of water from a lake. I don't even have a bucket, though. What am I using? A leaf? I'm not sure. But perhaps one day we will learn how to invent a bucket. But in the meantime, so this is double depleted. That's as bad as it gets. So it'll now cost 4 energy, but you don't subsequently deplete it even further. It would just be that cost. So that being the case, that's a lot to spend. What I'm going to do instead now is I'm going to seek other areas that are not so depleted, and I can see that there is water here, right? So there are little hints at what you might find on the other tile. Not just, one of the things I really love about this game, the art is very meaningful. As I said, there's like hidden omens, place where, speaking of which, my omen is, since I haven't drawn a night card yet, it is the cloud icon that shows up on this card. So that's when I'm looking for omens, I'd be seeking cloud omens. Or in certain other cases, I might not want to draw a cloud omen because sometimes omens are harbingers of bad things. But anyway, as I was saying, you can have a little sense of what you might find in the tile. And I imagine as you play more, you might know exactly what that tile is. So there's a fun of discovery as right now, kind of zooming in so you can see it a little bit better. That you can kind of see the hazy outline of what looks like a lake, an inlet. I don't know. Let's journey there and find out. Now, journeying inherently does not cost any energy. It might end up costing you energy, but initially all you do is choose the character. And by the way, you might have noticed, right? So I had Gretel go twice in a row. You can do that. There is, look, when you're playing with other people, you might want to go around the table and take turns, but you're not required to. The game explicitly says you can do things in any order. People can take multiple turns in a row. So obviously, playing solo myself, I will, just do things in the order they make sense. That said, it's not that Gretel could do anything anyway, since she's used all her energy. So Hansel will go ahead and travel, intrepid as he is, by himself, walking out into here. I will flip the tile. So here is Hansel in the new area, and here there are mountains, a river, and a wetland. And one of the things I really like is, there's a sheet that shows you what all the features are, but the art can be different. If you're not sure, you can look up in the codex, which I did, and just look up. So this is VV04. And also note that this should always be at the bottom. So orientation, you don't get to choose. It is fixed. But you can look up in the codex. It'll tell you exactly what the features are there, including that these mountains are an obstruction, which may come into play. Now that we've moved, we've seen what's here, we have to find out, was this a difficult journey? Let's draw the top card of the journey deck and resolve it. So you can see here we've drawn strange spires, and it tells you in blue at the top to resolve it if in your new space there's a chasm. There is not, so we just do an arduous journey instead, and we ignore everything else on the card. Arduous journey, very straightforward. You just look, was it an arduous journey? Did we have to cross an obstructed path? Yeah, we had to climb over the mountains. So because of that, it is going to cost me 1 energy. So I just have to flip over an energy. And yeah, so if this had been rotated, again, it can't be. But just as an example, this is not an obstructed edge. So, now I know for the future that there is the risk of having an arduous journey. Also, by the way, there is a cave here, which I missed on my first look, but it is listed in the book, so helpful to be able to look that up. Caves are nice. It's an area you can mine. When you get to mining, you might choose to mine either a cave or a mountain. In this case, I have both choices. You might find different things, and there are different risks. Same thing with fishing, which is actually the action I think I'm going to take now, because we do still need food. Although, the other option is we do have a lot of nuts, so I could potentially go mining to try and find some rocks that I could bang against my nuts to crack them open, and could potentially feed ourselves this way, although I would need multiple rocks, which again, I might be able to get from mining. So that's kind of my first big decision point here. I know that to get back, I probably need to save an energy. Again, you can freely share food and water, but only if you are in the same location. So in order to get back there, if it's an arduous journey, it is going to cost me 1 energy, which means I don't have a lot to spend. So I don't think I'm going to have enough to both mine and then do the processing involved. So I think I am going to take my chances with fishing. Now, as I said, I do have a choice. Do I want to fish in a river or in the wetland? I imagine down the road, different items or different circumstances might make a difference. The only difference now is what potential bonuses you can get. Lake would be ideal because the bonuses in a lake are extra fish. Here in a river, your bonus is extra water. In a wetland, your potential bonus is like string or twine. So in this case, we are both going to need water. That's the better one. So I'm going to go ahead and fish in the river. So here's how fishing works. I'm just going to shuffle up the fishing deck. And once I'm done shuffling, it doesn't matter. I'm looking at the other side. I don't know what they are. So I'll just draw this one. And we're only looking at this first, flip that over. This is the side we use. We're only looking at these first columns, or these first 2 columns, which tells you the things you can get potentially and the difficulty. Base difficulty, as you can see from the other side of the card, there are modifiers, but that's going to be a different card from the deck that's going to come later in the process. So having drawn that now, I will then shuffle up to get a look at the body of water and the currents. So as we just draw one card at random, it is going to be this one. So we will put it on here, kind of matching it up that way. And now we're going to have to decide, where to place dice. Before we do that, we need to roll the dice. Base fishing action, you roll 4 dice, which you're then going to get to place in the various what are called strike zones. Some can hold up to 2 dice, some just 1. Higher the better. Let's see how we're doing. Wow. Okay. So, Hansel knows how to fish. A 6, a 5, a 5, and a 3. I now have to position them where I want. And I can put, like I said, I can put up to 2 dice. In a strike zone, you can see this has the 4-leaf clover. That's the luck symbol. That means if I successfully fish from there, I will get the bonus item, extra water in this case. So you can potentially collect in each strike zone you place. You don't have to put 2 dice there. You could put 1. The benefit to putting 2, obviously, higher number since you add them both together. Once I've placed all my dice, I will draw a random card to figure out what the modifiers could be. +1, +2, -2. I don't know. And you'll just kind of then draw the connection and compare it to the base difficulty. So there are certainly things you can do to hedge. Knowing what certain things are going to be, but really I have to decide what I want to get out of here. If my main goal is fish, which I think it is, then I probably want a shot at both of these. And what I'm thinking here is I'm putting the 5 down here because you notice there's multiple of these currents go through the strike zone. You don't have to decide until you've seen the modifiers which current you're actually going to resolve. So in each strike zone, you'll pick one current. So there's only a 2 here. So if it doesn't work out if I don't have enough to get fish with my 5, reasonable chance that I will be able to at least get some water and some twine out of it. And I'm not even sure what I guess that's a shell. I'm going to have to look that up. But my focus here, trying to get as much fish as I can. So it is a little bit risky. I can't get any fish out of the bonus icon. So I will go ahead and put 2 dice there. And I mean, that's 8. So even if it's a ×2, I'm in pretty good shape. So having done that, I will now randomly shuffle up the deck again, and I'll take the 3rd card. Whatever it is going to be, these modifiers do not look too bad. So let's figure out what I can harvest. Well, the modifiers, the numbers may not be too bad, but the way things worked out, not great, as the fish current ends up at 7. This one also ends up at 7, and the bottom one ends up at 5. So, unfortunately, this 6, in both cases, not enough to do anything successful, so we just remove that. There's no penalty for that. Just don't get anything out of it. Now we'll resolve this strike zone, which, again, intersects 2 of them. It's a 7 going for the fish. It's a... going for the water is just a 4. 5 is greater than or equal to 4, so I do successfully get water and some twine from that, or reed, or whatever that is. It's fiber, so I did manage to get water and fiber, and then from this strike zone, where I do have an 8, that intersects the fish path, so 4, again, it's a 7, so I can get fish. I could also get more water, but fish is the food we're looking for, so I'll resolve that strike zone, picking up 1 fish. See, Hansel now has some goods in his pack. Not going to be enough food for everybody, but fortunately, you can survive a little bit without food, not so much without water. Although in this game, you can, but bad if you are not able to have food or water. That is the worst case scenario. Fortunately, we can avoid that, though I do have to say I'm not going to be able to do everything I want. We're going to be a little bit slowed down for the next day, I think, from collecting all those nuts. It was tiring work. That said, I think now I am going to have Hansel move back. Now, I mentioned I do have that ability to scout, sort of. I'm actually a little hazy on this because it says I can spend an energy to look at the top card of the deck. Do I do this during a journey phase? Because what it says is I can either put it on the bottom or I resolve it. It doesn't mention anything about actually taking a journey. So, not sure. I'll have to check and see if anybody asks that anywhere. For now, I just won't use the ability. I'll take my chances. I am going to journey across. So potentially it might cost me an energy if it's an arduous journey, but I do have to draw a card to find out. Okay, so for my journey card, I have drawn Wounded Warrior. And among the things this is looking for is a chasm. There is a chasm. Again, it's also looking for a mountain, but it's in the space you have arrived in, not the space you're moving from. So there is a chasm here, and which means I'll resolve it. So I have to go ahead, and I have found a predator, but it is stuck in the rocks. So I can help it out, and boy, is this interesting. So I have to test Conviction, which is not my best stat. It's only a 3. However, if I'm Intrepid, or indomitable, so either character would benefit from this. But I am intrepid, so I get a +3. So on top of that, because of my mantle power, I also get a +2 to any test on journey cards. So I have a base 3, a +5, and I have to roll a die, and I have to get a 9. So I like my chances. I think I have a 100% chance of success, but let's roll the die anyway. Here we go, rolling a 6-sided die. That is going to be a 2. Not a great roll, but I do get to add my score, which is 3, so that's a 5, and then the bonus 5 on top of that. It's a 10, which is 9 or higher, and the result of that, I clear the rocks. The predator eyes me suspiciously, and I have to read from the codex entry 848. So you can see here, it shakes itself off, eyes me with wary curiosity, and I potentially have a friend. I'm thinking that this is probably potentially one of the companions from the expansion. It has me put goal GN16 into play here, which you can see, a friend with big teeth. So I have the potential to make a friend here as this guy is hiding out either in the forest or the cave. Both those things are here. I just have to feed him. So everybody wants me to collect food for them. Can I not have any food for myself? But no rush. I can do this goal whenever I want. If I can give up 4 fish or 4 game, then I'll get to flip the card over and perhaps have an animal friend. All right, so journey resolved. We are now back together again. Can potentially share food and water. Also, of note, you do not have to store food and water in your pack. They kind of give you a spot here to remind yourself that you're going to use it because you do consume food and water before you have to reconcile your inventory. So it really doesn't matter if it fits in your pack or not. As I said, until you actually get to that part of the night phase, it's okay if you don't have room for everything. So I've got 2 energy left. I cannot forage. That would cost 4. Same thing with mine or fish. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to gather water from the lake. It's just a very simple, straightforward, basic action. Doesn't, as I said, doesn't matter that it's depleted. It just costs 1 energy no matter what, and that is going to get me 2 water. I'll give that water over here to Gretel so that she is not too thirsty. Throw the other one in my pack, and I've got 1 energy left. So what I'm going to do here, if I had wood, I could try to light it aflame. That said, I do not. So what I'm going to do instead is there's a lovely cave here which I think can provide some shelter. So as long as there's a cave in your area, you can build a shelter. That costs just 1 energy. So I'll spend my last energy to put down a shelter. Again, no bearing about the depletion. That only has to do with those other 3 actions. Only, oops, I put it on the wrong side. The only disadvantage, yeah, that you can see there's a 2 on one side, a 1 on the other. So, the downside here is it's only going to provide shelter for one of us this round. We'll be able to work on it, perhaps make it a little bit nicer next time. Shelters don't degrade. So we'll just have to clear more rocks away from another part of the cave to make room for 2 of us. However, this time around, somebody's going to have to sleep outside. So now we have reached the end of day 1. I don't know if there's a differentiation between the day phase and the day. So does this happen now? Does this happen after the night phase? I'm not sure. I don't think it matters either way. We have gotten to the end of the day phase at least, and I have completed this objective. No unrest. The people are happy. We've brought them nuts. They don't know how to access them, but they don't know that yet. We just told them it's food. They believed us. Everybody's happy. So having done that, I've completed the goal. I do have to remove all of these tokens. They go back to the supply. I don't get to keep them. I've given them to my people. But I do get to flip this card over. And you can see here, it's kind of looking, which path did you go? Were you more vegetables, more meat? Yeah, we were all on the vegetable side of things. So that is going to unlock the herbalism goal. So you can see here a new goal we've got, herbalism. We are trying to get different vegetables, put them on this card. The more we have, the more we're going to have learned about herbalism. At some point, we can go ahead and make an observation test, see what we've learned. And yeah, I mean, we do have one of the characters has a 5 observation. Also, there are ways to gain temporary boost to that. So really just a timing thing. We're still trying to feed ourselves. So not going to be in an immediate rush to put vegetables on there, but eventually we'll get to it. We don't have to complete this immediately. We can take our time. All right, so now we'll go through the steps of the night phase starting. We don't have to worry about nobody is incapacitated. That would be if they were full up on wounds and maladies. So we can jump ahead to recovery. 2-player game, everybody's going to recover 2 right off the bat. Then by consuming food and water, that's going to be an additional 2 there. Consuming water over here is going to be 1. And then one of them can benefit from the shelter. We'll keep things even, let her do it. So both of them are back up to 4 energy. Not ideal, but you never know what's going to happen. Potentially during the night phase, we might get a good night's sleep. Or I should say during the night event, we might get a good night's sleep and get some energy back that way. We don't have any night actions yet, so we can ignore that, but we do now get to degrade some stuff. So this 1 token will pull away, and this token will go down from a 2 to a 1, so that's at least a little bit better. And if I had any food that could degrade, like fish or meat, that would flip over as it would start to go bad. Still good enough for 1 more round. Case of nuts, the advantage to them is at least they are shelf stable, they do not degrade, and I haven't even cracked them open yet. So that's it for that part of the night phase. Reconciling inventory, not a problem, plenty of space. So now we will go ahead. Each character will have to draw a night card and resolve it. I can go in either order. We'll start with Hansel. Well, Hansel's night event is, did what he ate disagree with his stomach? Did he eat any fermented food? No, fermented food would be something that flipped over. In his case, it was fresh fish. So no food poisoning. That is a tranquil night, which means he is going to gain back an energy. So in the middle of the night, Gretel hears growling in the dark. I guess Hansel hears it too, but he just ignores it because he thinks it's his sister's stomach. It is not. She knows that. No, since there is a forest in this hex, it is some kind of animal. Perhaps it is the one that that followed us back over the mountains and is, or that we rescued. I guess it didn't follow us back from the mountains. We found it here in the chasm, but perhaps it is the one that Hansel freed, has moved in, and it's growling because it's hungry. It wants us to feed it. In a way, it's friendly. So, but the question is, maybe Gretel doesn't really know this. It hasn't met it before, so she's going to have to do a test. She's going to have to resolve this. That test of resolve is going to test her conviction, which is a 6. Also, she is indomitable, so there's a +2 to her roll. In this case, I'm not going to bother with the roll. Obviously, she is going to succeed, so she will gain a boost to her strength. So you can see I've slotted in a boost token there. The next time she has to make a strength check, she will gain a +1. And these don't go away. They stick around until you use them. Once she uses it, then it does go away. However, if I can manage to give her a boost again, right? If I get this up to 2, then her next strength check would be a base 8. And then this would degrade down to 1. So I'd be able to continue to use the benefits. Kind of like a stacking bonus. I like that. Nice little mechanic. That kind of lets you manipulate your statistics. There's, you saw me experience a tranquil night and gain energy back. If you already are at full energy and have tranquil night, then you get to gain a boost of your choice. So there are ways that you can kind of control this, plan ahead. I'm certainly thinking like with the herbalism, I'm going to want to boost up my observation before I do that. So things to keep an eye out for. That said, that is going to do it for the night events. Just a couple of things left. We now have to increase the activity level. So that bumps up to 1. Then I would look at the various events to see the first one actually triggers on activity level 2. So that will not happen until the next turn. And then we would just check to see if the population is 0 or the unrest is 20. It is neither of those things. That is the end of day 1, night 1, and we can get ready to roll again. One other thing, now that I've resolved night events, we do have a top card of the night discard pile. It's the second one we drew, Growling in the Dark, and you can see on the bottom left of the card, it shows you there's actually 2 omens, both the sun and the clouds. So if either of those come up, those are both considered active omens. Now, as we go into day 2, one of the things I was kind of wondering about as I'm, looking, I have very little stuff, right? I start with nothing. And when you do the tutorial, it has you try everything. You have to do mining, you have to do fishing, you have to do crafting. You can't even end the tutorial until you've made at least 3 tools. So it feels like it really gives you a head start. So I was wondering, well, how does that square with starting an actual campaign and having nothing? Well, look at these 2 different challenge cards. The one on the top is the challenge card that follows the tutorial. The one on the bottom is the one we're doing. So you can see, in particular, looking at the bottom number there, that is kind of, that is when potentially bad things happen. You haven't completed the challenge in time. So if you've already done the tutorial and you're doing this one, putting down roots, you have 13 turns to get it all done, 13 days. Whereas the one we're doing, you can see we've got 17 days. So it kind of factors that in. I can kind of think of these first 4 days. I mean, I did have to, focus on getting that extra food, so it's going to be a little bit harder. That is, I don't believe, one of the goals coming out of the tutorial. But in terms of everything else, I do still have kind of these extra rounds to build myself up, do the things I might have otherwise done in the tutorial. Now let's talk about day 2 and what I want to accomplish. I want food. So I want to be able to open these nuts. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Gretel stay here, and she's going to go mining. See if she can find some rocks that she can bang against them. So you can see here, if you look at the token, this is an unprocessed nut, and it's got the little striking symbol of like 2 rocks banging together. That means you need a tool capable of doing striking, which I'm pretty sure is the cloudstone. So I need to pick one of those up, I need to process it, and then I can bang the cloudstone against, actually I'm not even sure I need to process it first. But either way, I need to create a banging tool so I can open my nuts. And before I can even do that, I need to do some mining. So that is what Gretel's going to be doing. For Hansel, I mean, he's a wanderer. He is made to explore, so I think I will probably send him down to see what's here, what he can find, because I am still dealing with some depleted resources. It's going to cost me 3 energy to do the mining, and then it's once again going to be very hard. So the game, there are definitely benefits to kind of spreading out. That said, let's jump right into it. I will go ahead and start with the mining action. I'm going to spend 3 of Gretel's energy, normally 2 to mine, plus 1 from the depletion token. And we have a choice. We can either mine the cave or the mountains, or I should say the chasm. So mountains would be here. We're not there. So either the cave or the chasm. Let me take a look. Yeah, I was right. And of course, you can look at the resources at any time. It is the processed cloudstone that looks like this that has the ability to be used as a striking tool to open my nuts. But before I can get there, it needs to be processed with a scraping tool, and I can use a river stone for that. Or, sorry, sunstone. That's a river stone. So I can use a sunstone. So I need a sunstone. I need a cloudstone. I can find both of those things in a cave. So that's where I'm going to look. So here's how mining works. I've spent my energy. Again, it cost me 3. And now I've selected, looked in the book at when you're mining a cave. These are the potential resources. There's 5 of each of these tokens. And on the other side, they have the 5 different omens. When you're mining, if the omen matches one of the current omens, then something happens. Could be good, could be bad. I'm not really sure. I haven't done it all that often. But what you do is you mix them all up, which I've done. I don't know what's on the other side. And then again, it tells you for the cave, it is going to be 1 cloudstone and 2 sunstones and 2 riverstone. And those are all going to get put in the bag and shuffled up. Then I'm going to be able to draw 3 of them one at a time, resolving any matching omens along the way. And I do have the opportunity, when I'm reaching into the bag, to feel around, and it's not just random guesswork. Each one, you can see like the striations and kind of the edges in the riverstone. The cloudstone's a little rounder. So you can, if you are tactile, then you can potentially draw exactly what you're looking for. Check that. It is absolutely a match. So I have to consult the book to see that when I'm mining and I draw a star icon in a cave, what happens? All right, well, if this result is in the app, I don't know where to find it, so I will just have to use the actual book. Consulting the chart, it says the flickering light illuminates a promising shard of rock. I mean, that's good. If you have an item with fire on it, or there's fire in your hex, again, one of any mineral material. Of course, I do not have fire yet. That is elusive, haven't even tried, but the good news is nothing bad happened. Now, I can do this up to 2 more times. Certainly we want to get more stuff, so I am going to reach in. I'm going to feel for those striations so that I can get a sunstone. There it is, and that is not a matching omen icon. So now I can draw again, and there's some choice here, right? So this could influence my decision. Do I go for a riverstone? Do I go for a sunstone? I'm going to go for a riverstone just because I don't have one and I'd like to have a little bit of everything. But, let's say that weren't the case. Which omens are still available? Because there's only one of each. So now I've increased the chance that if I do draw a sunstone, that it's going to be a matching omen. And again, not always a good thing. Sometimes it is. I guess the more you play, you'll have a sense of these. But I'll reach in. I feel the striation. I don't want that. So I'll get the misshapen riverstone. And that is also not a matching omen. That's it. I can only mine 3 things. So I am going to dig out those 3 materials and add them to Gretel's pack. And last but not least, of course, I do have to deplete this hex. Now we can go to Hansel, who is on the move. He's going to see what's down here. And so we will flip the tile over. And let's see, there's some forest down here and no barrier. So even if it's an arduous journey, not going to cost me energy. So nice that I'll be able to move back and forth. So traveling south, the wanderer has found a couple of forests, a dried flats, and a chasm. Dried flats, good for mining clay if you're looking for it, as well as sunstone. But now we get to resolve a journey card. Well, this is not looking great, but who knows? There is fallen debris here, as there is a chasm, and we have to do a test to try and knock it loose. Thank goodness he at least gets that +2, because this is a test of strength, of which he is not. Hansel just has a 2 strength. I mean, I'd say he's a small boy, but miniature evidence to the contrary. Nevertheless, Hansel, with only a 2 strength, he will get a +2 from his mantle power. So that's going to be a 4. And now I have to roll a die. Here we go. It is going to be, okay, a 4 plus a 3 is 7. All right, well, the middle result, it takes him some time and some energy, but he does find a cloudstone. And that's it. That's the only energy it costs. Again, normally traveling, you would only spend energy if it's an arduous journey across a feature. Not the case here. So now he is freed up to take an action, and I mean, I would like some fire. So not to mention, if we get some wood, we've got all these rocks, we might be able to start crafting some tools. So I'm going to go ahead and head into the forest, and he is going to see if he can find some lumber. All right, so kind of in the interest of speeding things up here, I've gone through the process. You already know how that works. Looking for wood, lots of good options. I kept going until I finally got a predator. And this being the case, I'm actually going to hang on to this card. So I'll just put it on top of that one. For my harvesting, I can start here, which will get me wood plus the feather. Then I can move over to the midground and choose this tree, which has a couple of mushrooms. So that is fantastic. Getting food I wasn't even out here looking for. And then I can go all the way to the back. I'll come back to this card because there are 2 trees there along with some vines. So I'll be able to pick up a whole bunch of goods. When all's said and done, Hansel has managed to pick up 4 wood, a fiber, 2 mushrooms, and a feather, which fortunately he can just stuff into his overladen pack. Don't have to worry about reconciling it just yet. That'll put a depletion marker on the tile, and then Hansel will go ahead and make his way back to share his bounty with his sister. He would leave a trail of breadcrumbs to find his way back here, but he doesn't have any breadcrumbs, doesn't know how to make bread, doesn't know how to get wheat. One day, perhaps. Nothing special on the journey. Would be an ominous discovery if there were a mystery token here. There is not. It's an arduous journey, but there is no barrier, so no energy cost. All right, so with all these materials gathered, I think now is a good time to try and stoke the flame. Let us see if we can produce fire by rubbing a couple sticks together, I guess, is what I'm doing, or snapping one stick in half and then rubbing it together. And always helps if you have a little hessian or something to help catch the spark. That will be the fiber, so I can discard a wood and a fiber to make this test. I'm gonna have him do it, so he'll spend, leaving him with 1 energy left over. That will allow him to use his dexterity, which is a 6. So 6 plus 2 for discarding the fiber is an 8. Just need a 2 on the die roll. Here comes the roll. It is a 2, just high enough. And a very excited Hansel says, "Ah, man, make fire!" As we get to put a fire token. And on top of that, you know what? I've got these lovely little fire tokens, so we'll throw one of those as well to show that we have a roaring flame. And interesting mechanic with fire, it does degrade, but you can prevent it from degrading by feeding it, by discarding wood. But no need to do that the first time. You can wait till it degrades a bit, and then before it would degrade the second time, you can stoke the fire. Now, in terms of the goal, we have to begin the day with fire. So we will not get to find out what happens from that just yet. But with that very successful action, the one thing looking at our player boards that is missing is so you're seeking comfort. You don't necessarily need shelter to get that extra rest. You can either have a shelter, which we have one of us, or you can have fire, which will work for both of them. So whoever has to sleep outside the cave, it doesn't look like we're gonna, maybe we'll fix up that shelter, but no, I think we have other things we want to do. So what I'm going to do now is collect water because we do not want to be thirsty. So I will just spend 1 energy from Hansel. He'll collect a couple of water. Again, you can freely pass water at any time. You don't have to wait. And I've been saying, like, you can freely pass food and water. Any other materials you can exchange, but one of the characters has to spend an energy. Then once you do that, you've initiated a trade action and you can pass stuff back and forth. Food and water does not apply. So, having done that, got 1 energy left. Everybody is going to be fully rested. Well, we'll see what the night event is. But that aside, everyone is going to be fed. They're going to be watered. They've got fire for comfort. So with my last energy on Gretel, I'm going to go ahead and start refining some of these items and seeing what we can produce. All right, so this action actually called processing. So I will spend my last energy to do the processing action. Not going to be as optimal maybe as it could be, but that's okay. You can do 3 processing actions for 1 energy, but I'm only going to be able to do 2. I don't have access to anything in Hansel's inventory yet. So first what I'm going to do is I am going to take the sunstone and I am going to grind it against the cloudstone. So I'm using this, I can only use it once, and that will then allow me to flip this over, and that has now been refined. And with that sunstone, it now has the ability to do striking. So I will strike the nut, which allows me to flip it over, and now I have a nut. I also could have struck this riverstone, flip it over. That would have given me a cutting tool. I've got this bone here, which I could refine with a cutting tool, but would also need a drilling tool. Don't have one of those yet. So the reason I did the nut is because I can't stop thinking about that herbalism and wanting to discover more about it. I don't know when I'm going to be able to make that test, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to get mushroom again. So instead of eating this mushroom, I'm going to put it on the herbalism card, and then I will go ahead and take my nut that I've acquired, and I can eat that. That is going to do it for the day phase, as nobody has any actions left. Night, pretty straightforward. Everybody's going to heal up. You get the base 2 for just for a 2-player game. Then they are both fed, they are watered, they are comforted by the fire, and so everyone's at full energy. Now I do have to reconcile inventory, and in this case you can freely pass things around. And actually, I'm going to give that some thought because I'm going to want to process some of these things. So who do I want to be doing that? Actually, before I even do that, I do have to degrade. So the fire, it goes down. This goes down. This is removed. That's it for all of that. The mushroom here just stays as is. And I've shuffled around the inventory. Should be good. So that's going to do it for that, and now I can resolve the night events. Once again, we'll start with Hansel. I don't know, maybe Hansel does have breadcrumbs in his pocket because he seems to have attracted the attention of another animal, some kind of curious company sniffing around the cave. We do have fire here, and shelter for that matter, so that triggered it. And so I will go ahead and make an observation test. Which is a 5. I don't have any game to discard for any benefit, so it'll just be a 5 plus the die roll. Need a 9 plus for anything to happen, so looking for a 4 or a better. Nope, it's just a 1. So it actually tells me if I want, I can shuffle this back into the deck. Sure. That way, potentially, we can get animal companions for both of them. Now, Gretel will draw her card after I reshuffle. Ugh, my back. I've certainly said that. Am I old? Eye of the beholder, I guess. So, in this case, a resolve if you are old, a Gretel is not. So, just a tranquil night. She's at full energy. It means she's going to get a boost. And I think I might give it to strength. Boost it up. Yeah, I could give it awareness, but Hansel's got the better awareness. He's the one that I want to be able to perhaps eventually do the herbalism. So yeah, I will give Gretel a boost. So now her next strength check will be at a base 8. So the last thing that happens is we bump up the activity level to 2. That does trigger an event. In this case, I can choose any omen. I don't know, there's not really any particular omens out there. None that I could find on any of the cards in play. But I do know that if I go mining in the cave, that having fire will give me a couple extra cloudstone, potentially. So I will once again take the star omen. And that'll bring us to the end of day 2. You get ready for day 3. I'm back, and just a quick update before we get into day 3. Had a chance to go over some of the videos so far. I realized I made a mistake with the harvesting. The maximum you can harvest right now by default is 3. So presumably there's tools out there that let you take advantage of the double trees, double bushes. But the result of that is I should have 1 fewer wood and 1 fewer nut. So I'm going to remove those. Also, errata, nuts are considered vegetables in the game. So for the purposes of herbalism, of course, I don't have any more nuts. But if I harvest some more in the future, I could certainly put one there. Now, start of the day, I do have fire, so I have completed that goal, and you can see here, it is, there are secrets to be explored, areas we could not go before, now that we have fire and light. So what I need to do next is go ahead and consult the codex. You can see here, now that we've made fire, we've unlocked a whole bunch of stuff. A knowledge card on fire making, a new mantle power, a new outpost structure, which perhaps will be useful once we actually build our outpost, which we'll get to. Just want to get those food stores up a bit. And also another goal, and I get to mark up my cave wall. I am not the world's best artist, or even one of the world's worst, but maybe somewhere in between on the lower end. But here I have drawn a little man making fire. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Anyway, so I've marked my cave wall, and let's take a look at the new cards. Of course, this card doesn't tell us anything we didn't already know, but some of these things are not actually in the rulebook, so this is kind of a supplement to the rulebook so that you can reset things, right? When you start a new campaign, you're not putting stickers in the rulebook or whatever. You're just using these cards. Here's the fire pit structure, which we have learned, so we don't have to spend any lore there. And all we need to have is fire, which we've developed, and 3 sunstones. So hold that to the side for the future. So the new mantle power I've unlocked, I don't actually get yet. As far as I can tell, you are able to swap out mantle powers when you start a new challenge. So we're still in the midst of our challenge, but perhaps in the future we'll be able to use this. It is a mantle of the protector, so wouldn't have to change my mantle in order to be able to use this. We just have to swap out the other one. It gives +1 to group tests, which I have a feeling are probably going to come into play with the new mechanic introduced on the next card. And with the secret ways, we have unlocked the delving mechanic. And this is not even something I've looked up yet in terms of how it works. So once I'm ready to do a delve, I'll read up on the rules, and at some point in the future, we'll give that a try. Now on with day 3, and I think what I'd really like to do is start building some tools and crafting, and maybe actually go hunting, something I have not yet tried before. And so in order to do that, first things first, I have an idea of what I want to make, but I need to get the materials, so I'm going to have her, with a pack full of stuff, spend an energy to process materials. So I'm able to do 3 things. I'm going to use the cloudstone to bang on this rock, which is going to process it. So now I've got the riverstone. The riverstone is a cutting tool, so for my second, I will use that along with the fire I've got in the area to go ahead and harden this wood. Something I did not do in the tutorial. Never got to fire, so all sorts of new crafting options open up with that. And then for the third one, I realize I've now got a drill, so if I had the bone on me, I could potentially work that bone. I don't right now, so instead I'm just going to use the scraping or grinding of the sunstone to refine another cloudstone, and that's going to do it for that. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and spend an energy to craft. So crafting, I'll just explain it since it's the first time I'm doing it. You take 2 materials, any materials that have these various dots and symbols on the edge, and you'll put them together, one next to the other, just 2 at this point. I don't know that there'll ever be more than 2. But the one thing is they do have to match, right? So yellow triangles to yellow triangles, and there's different configurations. So I could go this way, I could go this way, which, effectively is like looking like that, or maybe not. I could rotate this, and I've got a couple of other options, or I could even connect the red sides. I could go this way. So you can see there's a whole bunch of different ways you can combine it, and obviously the way you put things together is going to change what tool you create. Now, based on the way you do the configuration, and I'm not really giving anything away here, this is the example in the rule book, you would look this up by the first color, so this is red, and then the number of pips, so 1, 4, 2, 2, then we would look up that recipe. However, I'm going to make something a little bit different, something I discovered in the tutorial. So this is your opportunity to look away while I show the recipe if you don't want to see what it is. So here's my configuration of how I'm putting the items together. And again, those middle colors have to match, and then we'll take the code and put it into the app. All right, safe to look now. I have hidden the recipe. Not going to hide the items because I'm going to be using them. I have managed to create, using the wood and the processed riverstone, a riverstone pick, which will be useful both for mining and potentially in a fight. So then it instructs us which card to get, and I discard the materials. Now, not every combination is going to result in something. Sometimes it'll tell you, well, maybe try another configuration. I think that's going to help you out early on. Other times it'll just say, nope, that doesn't work, and you'll have to spend more energy to test stuff out in the future. And you are encouraged to keep good notes so you know what you have and have not tried, and that way you don't waste your time trying recipes that have already failed. So you can see here, my first item, it is a hand item, so I'll have to put it in one of my hand slots. It's the Riverstone pick, which can be used when I do a strength test to let me do a reroll. And it can also be used as a mining, whenever I go mining, instead of collecting 3 resources, I can collect 4. And then you can see on the bottom of there, it also provides a mining tool, which is going to help me if when I'm building my outpost, I have to clear some of the land beneath it. Now, technically, this item would go on the left here in one of the 2 available hand slots, but just so I don't have to move this out of the way, and I've got the camera kind of trained on it, I'm just going to keep it here from now. When I get to the point where I've got so much equipment, then we'll figure out a better way to manage it. So now, I was going to have Gretel maybe go into the woods and fight something. She could even face a predator. It's a little iffy because she does have an 8 strength right now, and to fight a predator, I would need a 12 or better on a strength or dexterity check. So with the reroll, that certainly improves the odds, but also certainly some risk as well. So I think before I commit to that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send Hansel back down here to take a look in the forest, have him do some gathering, and see what he can find. Journey card is looking for a variety of features that are not found in the new space. No obstacle in the way, so arduous journey that does not cost me any energy. I'll then spend 2 energy to go foraging in the forest. So here's the results of the foraging. I was looking for roots and did find them aplenty. Again, there's 4 in there. I can only collect 3. There is a sunstone here sitting just below that root, so I get to collect that as a bonus item. Also, I think in the first couple times, I thought you do have to start in the near ground before you can harvest anything from the mid ground. You have to harvest from mid ground before you can harvest anything from the back. However, it doesn't have to be 1, 1, and 1. Let's say this had been here in the mid ground instead. I could do 1, 1, 2, 3, collect goods from the mid-ground as well. So, or the foreground. If you had, I think there was a time earlier I had potentially 2 trees in the foreground. I could have harvested both of them, but still, until I get some items that changes it, that limit of 3 objects being the main items, not the bonus items, remains. Anyway, I have picked up 3 roots and a sunstone, so now I have enough food for both of us, and also another vegetable that I can put towards herbalism. I'll put a depletion token here and then do another journey to make my way back up north. Well, I would resolve this normally if the cloud were the active omen, but if you remember, I changed it to a star. So, arduous journey, which means didn't have to spend any energy. Took a nice leisurely stroll down to the further away forest, made my way back, roots in hand, and still got a bunch of energy left. So now that I've got Hansel and Gretel reunited here, I'm going to go ahead and spend 1 energy to go ahead and collect 2 water from the lake so that everybody will be fully fed and watered going in. And you can see I've still got 5 left. So I thought about maybe going hunting, getting a whole bunch of meat, but I'm good for this round. So what I'm going to do is go ahead now and build an outpost. I feel like this is a pretty good spot to get my first outpost down because I've got the cave for mining, the lake for fishing, the forest for foraging. So I want to put it here covering the chasm. And again, if I needed to mine chasm, there's another one right down here. So in order to do that, well, first of all, I have to spend 4 energy. So I'll spend 3 from Gretel, 1 from... Actually, maybe I'll leave Gretel with an energy. I'll spend 2 from each of them. You can divide up any way you want. Now, in order to be able to place an outpost over a chasm, I do need a tool. I need a tool that has the pick. So, icon. So, I am able to use my pick to go ahead and do that. And then I just slot this in right here. And now I don't have to worry about the answer to a question, which I wasn't sure, is what happens if you build a shelter and then cover the cave? I'm not going to cover the cave. So, and important to note that outposts inherently do not provide shelter. Then again, as long as I have fire here, I'm good, but I am going to have to keep that fire stoked, which is going to cost me wood, which I still have 1. I actually have 2. I could use the hardened wood, but I'd prefer to use that for crafting. So, in any event, having constructed an outpost, we have now completed another objective and can flip that over. Having done that, I'll gain the knowledge card for how to build outposts, which, again, I know how to do, but I can add that to my list of available things, and maybe these are actions beyond the basic actions that are on the help card there. In any event, on top of that, I also have unlocked several structures that I don't have to pay the lore to research. Speaking of a structure that allows me to provide shelter in an outpost, here's one along with another option, storage containers, to allow me to hold on to more stuff. Couple of other options. We've got the underground storage, which will help keep vegetables from fermenting, as well as a waste pit, which in and of itself doesn't do anything, but we already know that there is a night event that I get a bonus to roll if I have a waste pit. We've got the workbench and the drying rack as options. I like the idea of the workbench, making it really easy, giving me the full suite of tools to process my items, and if I've got fire here, then I really got everything. So that's something I might have my eye on. There is some work to be able to get it into play, which I'll show you here. So you can see here on the other side, it shows you the lore cost to learn it, which is up here. But again, these I all learned free. I don't have any lore yet. But then below that, of course, is the cost in materials. Fortunately, I am able to produce a bunch of stuff, but I am going to need to go mining probably to get some more river stone. I'm going to need to process that bone, but I definitely have my eye on that workbench. And just then going through the structure options, of course, I also have the option of the fire pit. Nice thing about the fire pit, which does cost 3 river stones processed in order to build, is that it's a lot easier. There's no test involved to keep your fire going if you need to start a new one, so especially helpful if we plan on leaving the outpost, if we're not going to stick around to keep the home fires burning. So that is another option that I might be looking at for my first structures. Last but not least, we've got a new goal, which is build a village, which also happens to be the only other goal I need to accomplish to complete this first part of my campaign, this challenge. Not in any rush to complete the challenge. This is going to give me an opportunity to do some exploring. I do have to build 3 structures, so it's not going to happen right away. But now I kind of have my eye on the goal in front of me, and one more action, which perhaps I'll use to build another tool. Actually, I was going to process, but with the mix of materials, I can only process 2 things, so I'll wait until next turn when I have a chance to harvest some more materials. Instead, I am going to use my last action to craft. Also, another nice thing, now that I've built an outpost, I can take the exchange action for free. So I can freely move items between my characters, even during the day. Very helpful for doing things like processing and crafting. So, this is your warning not to look at the screen for a moment, as I'm going to go ahead and combine a couple items and see what happens. Here's the combination I'm going to try, see if I can make some sort of mallet. I've got a more solid handle, a very solid head, so let's see what happens when I combine the 2. And behold, it worked. This was just me intuiting that these 2 items might go together. I have, in fact, made a cloudstone mallet. So let's take a look at that. So you can see one cloudstone lets me hammer one thing. This mallet lets me hammer three things, plus it also gives me the hammer tool useful for building, outpost, and potentially other things. Probably there might be structures that require that. So that should be a handy tool to have around. And again, I can freely exchange things, so I'll go ahead and give that to Hansel. That's going to do it for the day portion, and now we can resolve night. Both my characters have food and water lined up, so I can take care of that, and they've got the fire. I am going to discard a wood to stoke the flames of that fire, keep it going. It still stays degraded, it just doesn't degrade again. And then with that, I can do the night events. Starting with Hansel, it is calming stars, and that will happen because there is a lake here. So I'm going to have to make an awareness test. I'm not attuned, I don't have a talisman, so just going to be my 5 awareness plus the die roll. Well, that is a 10, so I think that's actually going to get me to the top result. Yeah, 10 was exactly what I needed, so Hansel is going to get a boost to his conviction, and I've gained 2 lore. For Gretel, it is the Tide of Time, but I don't have a mystic, so it is just going to be a tranquil night. So I get a boost to a stat of my choice. I will give her a boost to observation, and because she's already at full energy. And that will do it for that. Last thing we'll do is up the activity level. Up to 3, the next event doesn't happen until 4 activity, so that is the end of the round. We do have a new omen in play. It is the moon icon. Time for round 4. Oh, last but not least, I actually should have done this earlier, but I do, when I would have fed the fire, I also would have removed these depletion tokens. Going into day 4, I think what I want to do is I want to work towards getting that animal companion, which means I'm going to need a whole bunch of meat. So I am going to go hunting, but first, if I am going to go after a predator, which is some pretty big game, I wouldn't mind having another weapon. I do have 2 hands, so let's give her 2 weapons. In order to do that, in order to do some crafting, I think I'm probably going to need some more wood. So I am going to send Hansel on a journey back down to the forest below, and there he will do some foraging. And actually, before Hansel sets out on his journey, Gretel is going to loan him the pick. So he's going to throw that. Again, he can hold 2 items in his hands, so then he'll head on out. So Hansel moves down, and all of this traveling alone and solitude has started to get to him. He is alone, because again, once he arrives in the new space, he's alone. So now he is going to have to make an awareness test. His base awareness is 5, and to that we will add 3 for a total of 8. Easy come, easy go on the upgrade over here to his conviction, as that will degrade, but don't lose any energy. Speaking of energy, I'll go ahead and spend 2 to see what I can find in the forest. All right, so this turned out to be a pretty good haul. As you can see, the cards I got, I drew the close-up predator a couple of times, but fortunately there were no other predators in play. So this is what I was talking about before that I did slightly wrong. I'm going to go to this tree first, which has a bone, and then I'm going to go to the midground, and I can go to this tree, which has fiber, and then I can stay in the midground. I could come back. It's just in order to take anything from the midground, you have to have taken from the foreground. In order to take anything from the background, you have to have taken from the midground, but you don't have to go back that far. So I will also go to this midground tree, which has 2 feathers up in a nest. So Hansel, ever intrepid, will climb up and grab those. Speaking of intrepid, I actually forgot he had an additional +2 to that previous journey test because of his mantle power. But in any event, we have collected a whole bunch of resources. There is the haul, which Hansel will stuff in his overflowing pack. Now, with a sack full of goods, Hansel not done yet. He is going to head over here to take a look in the cave nearby. He's got that pick that he borrowed, so he can do some mining, bring some resources back. Just looking for a sun omen, which is not the current omen, so arduous journey, but there were no obstacles I walked through. So once again, a nice leisurely stroll that does not take any energy. And by the way, why am I taking this circuitous route? Well, it really has to do with the depletion mechanic. I've got my home base set up. I don't want to overly deplete the resources, make things cost 3 or 4 actions. If I can spread things out, then it only costs me 2. It's actually an interesting thread on Board Game Geek, someone pointing out that it's a little thematically weird that why does going in the forest deplete the lake, but I think you have to think of it in kind of a more macro level. It's just an abstraction, but resources, look, maybe that day, even though we didn't spend an action on it, you went to the lake, the fish weren't biting, so you went to the forest instead, but well, I'll try the lake tomorrow. It'll be a little bit harder. I'll have to spend a little bit more energy, but maybe I'll get some fish. One of the interesting notes there, too, was that in the original playtest version of Stonesaga, there was no depletion, but they found that people would not go anywhere. Makes sense. So I kind of like this little circuit I've got going. Of course, I'll have to decide if I want to go back through the mountains, take the chance there, or draw 2 journey cards, go the other way around. I don't have to make that decision yet. First, I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 to go mining in the cave. I've loaded up the bag, and I think first and foremost, I want to see if I can find some riverstone. So there we go. That is the moon omen, which is the current omen. All right, well, we have found some strange slippery substance. I'm feeling around to see if I can find anything. I'm going to test awareness, which is 5. No bonuses here. Don't have any of the listed traits. This is not a journey. This is just a mining action. So I'll go ahead and roll. 5 plus 6 is 11. Wow. And actually, I nearly forgot about heroic effort. When you roll a 6, you get to keep going. So that is actually a 10 plus 5, a 15. So the result there is I'm going to get 2 moonstones. And I'm not even sure. I think these are probably the moonstones. The other side is this silvery liquid that requires the moon. So I think I've intuited that correctly. Well, I'm going to be really curious to try and craft these onto something when I get back home. But in the meantime, we still have plenty of more collection to do, as that was just the first, and I can draw up to 3 more. Next draw, I do want another Riverstone, so not that one. That is going to be that one. Obviously, the omen doesn't match. 2 more, and then I was going back and forth whether or not I wanted a Cloudstone and a Sunstone or 2 Sunstone, but given the opportunity to get even more Moonstone, though I don't know where I'm going to store any of this, I think I might as well take 1 of each, increase my chances. I guess it doesn't work that way. Let me take the Sunstone first. Okay, so not a moon. So now my best chance of getting more moonstone would be to take the other sunstone. That is what I will do. It is a moon, and I once again get to do a test to see if I manage to retrieve the moonstone from there. This time it is a 9, which is good enough for 1 moonstone. So there is my huge mining haul. I'm just going to stack everything in my overflowing pack. Thank goodness I don't have to check until nightfall, because there is a lot of stuff in there right now. But that is going to do it for that. And now I am going to head back home. It would be nice to have some energy so I can do some stuff with this. So I think I'll take the long route back, draw a couple journey cards. All right, well, it was inevitable that something potentially negative was going to happen here. I do not have a walking stick. I have to make a test here with my unsure footing. So I will get my +2 from my mantle power. So let's see what happens. It's going to be not a huge result this time. Just rolled a 3, although I do have a 6 dexterity, so that's a 9. And +2 is 11. So much for something bad happening. Just because I get my choice of a mineral item, just because I haven't picked up any yet, I will grab some clay, and now I can move on heading north for my next journey. So Hansel is feeling quite lonely. He's done quite a bit of traveling. He's explored caves. He's been in the forest. He really wants to get back to Gretel and their new outpost. So he tries to occupy himself with a tune. He is intrepid, so he'll get +2 from that. He'll get another +2 because of his mantle. He is the wanderer. So that is going to be a 3 conviction plus the 4. So starting with a 7, and it's going to be 13 plus 1 more of 14. I'll have him also gain 1 to observation. And now he has arrived back home. And the big question is, what has Gretel been doing? I think she's been thinking about what she might be able to craft to give herself another weapon to help her out as she is looking to fight a predator. I think with all this gear, though, the hunt is going to have to wait. I don't want to waste these materials. I want to hold on to as much as I can. So I'm going to have Hansel use his last action to go ahead and do some processing. He can use the pick as a cutting tool. It's got the icon there to process the fiber. That's number 1. Then I will use this. I could also use the Cloudstone mallet, which I realize is not a hand item. It's a pack item. So that's good to know. But I'll go ahead and just use the stone to bang this rock, which will then turn that rock into a cutting tool, and then I can use that rock to cut the other fiber. And now I am in a position to build something. With her first action, Gretel is going to go ahead and she will do the build a structure action, just cost 1 energy, using 2 wood and 2 string or whatever it is I have created there. But those are the materials I need to build storage containers. I can see here the storage container, which is movable, so potentially I could bring it over to another outpost. Again, I'm not even sure how that mechanic works, haven't looked that up, but having the storage container is going to let me store 4 additional items that my characters would otherwise not be able to hold. And man, I really want to mess around and try and build something with the new materials I got with the moonstone, but before I get into that, I think what I'm going to do is, and I'm showing you this recipe because, again, this is the base one, but I do need food, and I think I want to go fishing, so having a spear would certainly be helpful for that, because I also need to pick up water. So I'm going to go ahead and spend another energy to combine a wood and a processed river stone, and again, we'll look this up, but I already know that it is going to work. Yeah, this is really good for multiple reasons. Here's the second weapon I was looking for. I thought I had it in my head that it only worked with dexterity, but no, it's whenever I fight or hunt, it's an additional reroll. So I'll have to double check the rules. I think you can use more than 1 weapon. Go out there with a spear. I mean, she's got 2 hands. So a spear in one hand, a pick in the other. She might be ready to fight a predator. But also, importantly, it's going to give me a reroll when I do the fishing action. So those resources spent up, I'll add that to her inventory. And I gotta admit, with the 2 weapons and the bonuses, I'm very tempted to go hunt now, but if I manage to kill my prey, I am going to get a whole bunch of stuff, and I've just managed to fit everything. So I am going to go ahead and spend 2 energy, try my luck with my new spear, and I will go fishing in the lake. All right, so randomly drawing and going through. All right, well, this is good. There's fish in multiple spots here, and just randomly drawing one of these. We do have a lucky spot. And now I do need to go ahead and roll 4 dice, and with the spear, I'll get to reroll 1 of them. Thank goodness, because, boy, that's a terrible roll. Yikes. Hopefully we can get a little bit better here. Yeah, that is definitely better, so glad I had the spear. Now I need to decide what to put where. I really want to try and maximize the number of fish I got here, and there's not really any great opportunities with the bonuses. If I had a 6 maybe, but so I'm gonna put these here. I should be in good shape. Worst case scenario, I can use water in that strike zone, and even if I took an injury, I still have my protector ability available. And then I'll just take the hopefully easy fish up here. Relatively, it's a 3 difficulty to start. I'll put 5 in there, and then we'll go ahead and see what the modifiers are going to be. Well, there is... this could be interesting. There's a ×2 there. There's also a +0. All right, the results here is that this is a 3, an 8, and a 7. So not going to be able to pull that one. Well, I guess I could, but I'd rather get the fish. It's going to be a lot of fish, as I'm going to get 1 fish from this path, and then 2 more fish from here. There's a little ×2 there. So I just need some water to fill things out, and I do have 1 more energy left. So I will grab 3 fish, and then I will spend my last energy to go back into the lake and just get myself some water. And it took some rotating and some puzzling out, but behold, I can slip a water in there, and I can just fit a fish in there. I can get all these flat, so nothing overlapping, and of course, I've got the ones I'm going to consume here. That's it for the day phase. And I forgot, I actually do have a little bit more room because I have to discard wood to keep my fire going. These will degrade. Of course, I have enough resources, food and water and heat for everyone to get all their energy back. So then we can jump right into the night events. A legend returns for Hansel, resolved only if we have 2 or more maladies. Nobody has any maladies. We've done very well with that this game. So instead, I will go ahead and bump up my awareness to a +2. So that's at 7. And now for Gretel. Yeah, this one only resolves if our unrest is 8 or higher. It's not, so we'll just let that go. And honestly, if I'm just paying attention to the top part of the card. That way I can be surprised when I do have to resolve the bottom. To give her another ability, I think I'm actually going to go ahead and let's bump up her conviction from a 6 to a 7. Well, for once. And then it, of course, will degrade the first time it's used. But that's going to do it for that, and then we will up the activity level, which is going to activate an event. So we're gathering supplies here. I will roll a die for each, and we'll see what they get. Hansel and Gretel are both rolled a 1. They both get a wood, which I'm actually pretty happy about. That's going to spare me a trip to the forest anytime soon, and allow me to keep feeding that fire. And at this point, I've already reconciled my pack, so I'm good. I don't have to do that again until the next night phase. So it's fine that I don't necessarily have enough room, but that is going to finish off day number 4. I think to start off day 5, I'm going to see if we can't knock off another goal with herbalism. It's just a +2, but I'm at 7 awareness with Hansel with... He's currently at the +2 bonus, and if I fail, then it'll just go back up. So I'll go ahead and spend her energy. He's got a base of 7 plus 2 for 2 more tokens, so that's a 9 to start. I just need a 2. And here we go. Rolling up, it is going to be, it's going to be very high. And even though it doesn't matter, I want to roll again anyway. Yeah, it's going to be a 17, so we have learned something new. All right, we have learned quite a bit about vegetables and herbs, gained 3 lore, which I've upped. I get to draw again on the cave wall. Well, that's always fun. We'll see what I can do with that. And I've unlocked a looming challenge, and we haven't really talked about that yet, but looming challenges are, once I complete this challenge, I'll be able to decide where I want to go next from among my looming challenges. I do have one from one of the expansions. I can start looking into meal preparation, which could be fun, or I could go this route. But that goal completed, we can continue on. All right, that done. Now I think it's time. Vegetables and herbs are all good, but this tribe, these are omnivores. My people are ready for some meat, or at a minimum, that wild animal lurking in the jungle wants meat. So I'm going to have Gretel spend 2 to go ahead and forage. And I'm not even going to bother going through the deck, because I'm just going to keep going until this happens. As the predator, Instead of the predator hunting me, I am hunting the predator. Now, there are other animals I could hunt, small game, which are the little animals in the background, and kind of the way it works with them is you have to find tracks leading to them. So you look in the foreground for tracks, and then you can hunt game in the midground. Same thing with the larger animals, but those are all dexterity checks. And for Gretel, she is all about her might, which is currently at 8. Now, when you're fighting a predator, in that case, you can use might or dexterity. You can also choose to run away, which, of course, I'm not going to do. So fighting against it, I need a 12 or higher. So I've got an 8 to start. I need to roll 4, and I have 2 rerolls. So let's see what happens. All right, facing off against the predator with her spear in one hand, her hammer in the other, and the first roll is a 3. It's not good enough. All right, there is a risk with these that they could break, so I'll use the spear next to re-roll, and ooh, okay, so I got a 6, which is great, plus 2 more. Unfortunately, on a roll of a 6, I have broken the spear, so I jab it into the predator, and it just like cracks in half, but the predator drops dead, leaving me with quite a bit of bounty. And that has given me all sorts of stuff as I've picked up 4 game, 2 teeth, I think I've got these right, 2 guts, 2 shells, crafting materials galore, but also with all that meat, I'm here in the forest anyway, so let's find out about that creature that Hansel rescued earlier. And since I have my outpost and I can freely trade, I will let Hansel be the one to befriend this animal. I'll pass over. Actually, I could give him the food anyway, because you can always trade food freely. Either way, Hansel will head into the forest with all of that meat. He'll hang on to the fish extra. Actually, no, I might as well give away the fish, because the fish I forgot to mark it, but last turn the fish should have decayed a bit. So we'll hang on. So yeah, we'll do that instead. The animal just wants 4 in any combination, I assume. So we'll hold on to the fresh meat, and let's see what happens. All right, so it takes some time, but eventually I do earn this creature's trust, and I have befriended it. I get to put a new mark on the cave wall. I still haven't put the other one on, so I have to take care of that as well. And I have gained an animal companion. And behold, Hansel has bonded himself to the defender, which looks an awful lot like the predator that Gretel killed. I hope they weren't related. We won't tell him about that. We won't tell him that the meat we gave him came from another of his kind. Yeah, let's not think about it too much. But Hansel does now have this animal companion, and I had to read up on the rules for animal companions. There's quite a bit going on. But the main thing is there's just one animal companion in the base set. So that is something you can discover even if you don't have the expansions. The expansion introduces 5 additional ones, including this one. You can see it's got a might score of 6. So for certain tests, I can use its might. I can also feed it once a day one of its preferred foods, either fish or meat. That'll give it a boost to its might score. Then it's also got a special ability of, if Hansel finds himself in a fight, it can take the wound for him, and it's also got 2 item slots, so it can carry things, basically an extension of Hansel's inventory. And then we also have a nice little miniature to go with it. So that was fun. Still have plenty we can do this day, as I still have 7 energy available between the 2. I do need a little bit more food and water, and I have a ton of materials, so really should start doing some refining, crafting, maybe make another structure. I'm kind of going to think things out, but I've been playing for a while. I'm going to take a break. Lucky for you, that break is going to be over like that. And I am back. Just like that. Ready to pick things up here in round 4. I've had some time to, well, first of all, to catch more mistakes. And look, there are a lot of rules. It's 100 pages of rules, very well organized, very easy to get through, but there's a lot of little details, easy to miss some things. Like when you feed the fire during the night phase, it should flip back over. So I just kind of recalculated it. I did have room that one time that I gave up the wood. So I just gave myself an extra wood. Fire is still in the similar position right now where it is depleted. But next time I feed it in the night, it will go back to full. That said, let's move on. So what I've realized now is here I am in day 5. Technically, I have until day 17. I'm not going to take that long. But it is not going to be hard for me to build my village. I could potentially even do it this turn. I don't want to. I have all these goods. I know that in between campaigns, you can only keep 5 goods per person, and that includes stuff you've got stored. I've got a lot more than that right now. I'd like to certainly experiment with crafting. I really want to try out this delve mechanic. So there's a lot I want to do. First things first, I do need some more consistent food. So I think what I want to do is I want to get my spear back, and I had a thought of how I might be able to build a fishing net. So I'm going to give that a try. So the first thing I'm going to do is have Gretel spend an energy so that she can process. She's going to use this cloud stone to bang this river stone. Then she can use the river stone to cut the fiber. And then finally, I will grind one sunstone against the other. You can do that. You can't grind it against itself, but if you've got 2 of them, that'll convert the sunstone, and that's it for that action. Next up, I'm going to spend another energy from Gretel. I am going to craft, so here is your spoiler warning. Thought if maybe I combined these 2 in this configuration, might get me, like I said, a fishing net, perhaps. Let's find out. Okay, not quite the item I was expecting to make, but definitely something useful, as I have managed to make a woven basket, which will help me when foraging and carrying stuff. So let's take a look at that item. So you can see this is a pouch item. It does have a carrying capacity of 1, so I can hold something in there. And more importantly, when I'm getting grain or nuts, I can carry 1 extra. All right, well, even though it'll be a little bit more expensive action-wise, energy-wise, I'm going to go with my original plan of fishing, I think. So, but I do want the spear. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and remake that. Now, I could consult my journal for this recipe, or in this case, I just kept the card handy, and you can see red 1422, and it actually shows the reverse, which is if you just flip it around, that's the blue one, same recipe, same result. That is the Riverstone Spear, which again, even though Gretel is the one who is making it, she will give it to Hansel so that he can go ahead and fish. So here is the initial random setup. I do like this because I've got a fish in a water passing right through the lucky territory, so could be some good benefits of this. I'm going to roll 4 dice. Wow, yeah, that is really good. And then with the spear, I do have a reroll, so I'll reroll the 3 for better or for worse. For worse. Definitely would have been better with that 3. I probably should have just figured out what I was doing before I immediately re-rolled. I was so excited to use my spear. That being the case, should be able to lock that in by putting a 9 against 4. And then, while it would be nice to get the Riverstone, because I would like some more for crafting and other things, I'm not sure I'll have anywhere to put it. So instead, let's just take another sure thing, or hopefully sure thing, get fish, and then we will put out the last card, and yeah, everything looks okay there. Nothing too expensive, so I should be able to then use this strike zone. It's going to get me a water and a fish plus lucky, and in the lake it is going to be an extra fish, and then a fish from here, so 3 fish and a water. Just got 1 energy left, and speaking of things I forgot to do, I didn't mention in the video, but I did take care of when I used my might in the hunt and my awareness earlier with the herbalism. In both cases, they were at a 2. Using those abilities would then degrade them down to a 1, to a minor boost instead of a major. Now, with just 1 energy left and not quite enough room to fit everything, I am going to go ahead and craft again, and I'm going to try another combination that I think maybe could give me a shovel. Here's your spoiler warning. And here is the combo we have put together. And once again, I've made something completely different from what I was expecting. I have made my first musical instrument, a lithophone. So taking a look at that, it's another pouch item, and this is my first item that allows me to take a night action. Pretty easy. I can just use it during the night phase and give a boost to conviction. So really get everyone inspired and ready to go with that music, as Hansel will hopefully not be keeping people up at night. And yeah, so another pouch item. We will add that to the pack. And I can hold up to 4 pouch items for each character, so plenty of room. And that's going to do it for the day phase. Nighttime, everyone's going to gain back all their energy and consuming food and water. The fire now would actually go down, so I will go ahead and spend a wood to keep the fire burning. And as I said, this will actually make it stronger. So we'll degrade this down. In terms of pack, you can notice that I am taking advantage of my extra slots. And I actually did have some room left. I've got a couple of items here that my befriended pet is holding on to. I could put another item in here if I wanted to. And I've also got the storage in my outpost. So, all that said and done, time for night events. And actually, going in order, before I degrade the tokens, that's when I get to go ahead and play everyone to sleep with my musical instrument. So that'll be a bump to resolve here, as well as over here. So I will grab one of those, and then we'll do the night events. For Hansel, it's just going to be a tranquil night, since our unrest is still at 0. So I'm going to give him a boost to dexterity. So this is an interesting night event. This one I have to resolve, no conditions, and it is the Wanderer's Wending Path, as the Protector is having dreams of the Wanderer as Gretel looks up and sees a comet in the sky and follows the path. And where does it land? Well, we'll do that in a sec, as I get to choose one of the options. Here's an example of a way that you can... sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it's a bad result that will advance the activity track. Sometimes you could do it by choice right here. Of course, we don't have any maladies, so I'm going to choose the first option. I am going to place a mystery token in an adjacent territory. And it does say to put one where there's a chasm or a crater, I guess. So it'll go here. And with the mystery tokens, this is the first time we've had one of these come out. Once somebody moves into that space, they're going to have to encounter the mystery, flip it over, and at that point you check to see if it matches the current omen. There is randomly an omen printed on the other side. There are 15 tokens with the three each of the 5 different omens. And appropriately, actually the current omen is the comet. So once somebody goes into there, as I said, we will encounter it. Last thing to do is up the activity level. No event, that doesn't happen until 7. So we'll move that up to 5 and move on to day number 6. Day 6, and no sooner does Gretel mention this comet she saw last night that her impulsive and intrepid brother immediately takes off. He is going to do a journey. Now, and when he moves, his faithful companion will follow with him. That companion does have the ability to move independently once a day, but general rule for all companions is they will move with you. So that being the case, I think even before I do the journey card, I have to resolve the token. It says whenever you enter a hex, and you do enter it first. I'm not positive. That's one thing. Maybe I'll have to double check if there's an FAQ there. But I'm going to go ahead. We will flip it over. It is a comet, which means I need to cross-reference the chart for this particular site with the comet symbol and find out what happens. All right, so we've cross-checked. It's actually not this specific location. It's just Verdant Vale, or Verdant Valley. So I've cross-referenced that against the comet, and I have found a small crab-like creature using a predator shell. If I have a weapon, I can take it out. Well, I did bring my trusty spear. I never returned that to Gretel. Did not take the pick. But with that on me, I managed to get some plunder. It's going to be 2 game and a shell, so I'll add that to the inventory. Also, I forgot to degrade my fish, so let me take care of that. And yeah, I was wondering do I want to feed this guy to give him the might boost, but I feel like I'm pretty good for now. So now I do need to resolve the journey. Looking for sun or star, which this is neither. It's the comet, so arduous journey, no energy loss. I've gotten pretty low on lumber, and now I can kind of work towards one of the other things I really wanted to do is, since I really want to try out a delve, but I would like to go down in there with a torch. And I'm thinking, if I'm going to be able to make a torch, I know wood is probably one component. I think the other thing I'm probably going to need is pitch. And with any luck, I can find some in the forest. I've spent my 2 energy, placed a depletion token, but also, by the way, these tokens are removed once they're resolved, shuffled back into the mix. It's another big haul in the forest as I managed to get my 3 wood going here, here, and here, as well as a couple of mushrooms, the pitch I was looking for, and some vines. So, very successful. Let's bring all that stuff back to Gretel. Traveling again, just head back the way we came. Come on, buddy. Let's go back to your home, and let's see if anything happens on this journey. At this point, if it's an arduous journey, I'm not going to bother showing you the card. Was not a match, so I have safely made it back without energy spent, and now we can start to put some of these materials to use. So even though I am overloaded with goods right now, I am missing what I think is going to be a key ingredient. I was going to make the fire pit, but there's another icon on there. I need an igniting tool, which I don't have yet, and I've been thinking about different ways I might be able to make some flint. So just in case I may need a river stone for that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have Gretel spend 3 energy to go ahead and mine the cave. She's got her mining pick, so I'll be able to grab 4 things here, starting with, I know I need at least 1 more sunstone, so there's that, and it is a comet, so let's see what happens. Well, that is fortunate. I almost took our first major injury, as I would have stumbled in the dark unless I have an item with fire, or if there is fire in your hex, which there is. So thankfully, otherwise no effect. Let's get some river stone. Obviously now it doesn't matter if the omen matches. I'm going to go for another river stone, I think. Let's see. Yeah. And do I want cloudstone or another sunstone? I am planning on using a lot of the sunstone. I'm good with cloudstone for now, so I will go ahead and grab another sunstone, and that is going to do it for a successful mining action. Next thing I'm going to do, just so I don't forget, is I'm going to have Gretel fetch some water. We'll just go to the lake, grab 1 for each for 1 energy, and now do some processing. We'll have Hansel go first, as we're going to have to do a couple of rounds of processing here. First up, I'll use the hammer to strike this, which will then let me flip it over. Then the riverstone can go ahead. Well, I'm not going to use it yet. I've got fire, so I can ignite the pitch. And now I've got that, which I can combine with something, and then I'll scrape 2 river stones together so I can polish 1 of those. That's the first 3 that I'm going to convert. I'll then spend an energy to do it again. This time I'm thinking if I'm going to be delving down into the depths, it might be a good idea to have some rope. Potentially here, a couple of different options that might be able to do that. I'm going to cut this with my riverstone pick. This one I can cut with the riverstone spear, and this needs to be cut. I can do that with the flaked riverstone, and then I do have the fire, so that is my 3rd processed good. I've got 2 energy left, so let's try and do some crafting, and I am going to try and bang some rocks together to see what happens. All right, so here's the combo I'm going to try, and let's see what it produces. Yeah, it produced something, just not what I was looking for. I've made grinding stones. And I'm going to put this up on the screen now. I'm going to show you the picture, which is pretty much gonna spoil what I use to make it. So again, you can look away if you don't want to see the card. Grinding stone's actually pretty interesting, though. I mean, first of all, it gives me a lot of tool abilities, and it's another night action that I can now use to try grinding materials to see what happens. I have to consult the codex when I do that. Again, I can do that during the night phase, so we'll be able to check that out tonight. But let me put that item away back in my pack, and then we will continue on. Sadly, I am going to not have enough room in my pack. I'm going to have to lose some items, but that's okay. We'll be in a good position to gather stuff next turn. I am now going to use my final energy to try crafting one more time. I am going to see if I can make that torch. So, I mean, spoiler alert, but I think you already have an idea of what I'm doing. I am going to be trying to combine the wood and the pitch, and let's see what happens. Success! We have made a torch. Although I have to say, when I first put in the combo, I'm using the app, I put in the code and it said, that's an odd combination. You didn't make anything. I was very confused. I was like, what else am I combining the pitch with? It only has one. And then I realized on the other side, it has no dot. I thought that was one dot. It's actually a no, meaning nothing connects on that side. And when you're entering the code, that counts as a 0. So the last digit in the code was 0. Once I put that in correctly, I did, in fact, create a torch. And here's the torch. It is a hand item. It is mobile fire, although there is every night a chance that it goes out. Makes sense, and when it goes out, the item is discarded. So, but glad we successfully managed to do that, and that is going to signal the end of the day. We're going to have to, tomorrow, see if we can figure out how to get flint. Now it's time for the night. Everyone does have enough goods and fire to get all their energy back, so we'll take care of that. Then I'll go ahead and perform night actions. So we can give another boost over here, playing our musical instrument. And then what I think I'm actually going to do, I'm going to go ahead and try and grind one of these rocks and see what happens. Let's try and grind the clay. Well, in retrospect, I guess that probably makes sense. Grinding the clay didn't do anything. I guess I would just have more clay. So I'll give that a little bit more thought next time, next night phase. And of course, I don't have to wait. I can do it as an action if I want to spend the energy during the day. Next up, we'll go ahead and degrade these tokens. Not going to feed the fire since I can go ahead and do that next turn and then get it back up to full. And then I have to reconcile my inventory and don't have room for everything. So I am going to lose these 4 items. Easy enough to get back. I need plenty of more mining next turn. So plan on doing that. That's going to do it for that. Time for the night events. Oh, I also shouldn't forget that I do need to degrade my meat. So we'll plan on eating that next time. For once, I will not have to go hunting for food, at least for one day. All right, now the night events. All right, so first night event for Hansel, and this one it will trigger as we do have a cave, as there are hungry predators prowling around our camp and our outpost. And somebody is going to need to stand up to them. You'd think with having our predator of our own here, that would help. But no, we have the mantle of the defender. We have Gretel, who is going to be able to get this done. She is well suited to the task, as first of all, she's got a 6 conviction. She's currently maximum boosted, so that's +2. She's 8. She has a weapon, gets her up to 10. There is fire, so it's a +12. On top of that is, we're up to an 18, a 22 on that roll. I think she succeeded. As a result of that, we get to design the clay pots for free. You can see that's pretty nice. Stores 4 food that does not degrade. However, not easy to make. Not with the stuff we have right now. Also, I'm only going to be able to make one more structure before I trigger the end of this challenge, so no rush for that. Just did a little shuffling around the packs because I realized I had a couple items set off to the side that I hadn't placed. Now let's go ahead. I degraded this after using it in a test from 2 down to 1, and now let's go ahead and do Gretel's event. And hey, look, it is once again Curious Company. So this time she's got a boost to her awareness. So she's at a 5, and I'll go ahead. I do actually have 1 extra food. And actually that mushroom should be degraded. But I will go ahead and give it the game for +3. So that's an 8. Can't get any worse than a 9, so I have succeeded. So now we've unlocked Human's Best Friend as a goal. This one, a little tricky, as I need to have a particular structure built. Don't have any of those structures built and have to give up 4 meat. So all right, we'll hang on to that. Perhaps sometime in the more distant future, we'll pull that one off. So I'm now realizing, looking at Build a Village, it's curious. It says this goal is complete when one of your outposts has at least 3 structures. So does that mean I can build more than 3 before I choose to complete it? I'm going to have to find out before I continue. But speaking, I'm going to have some time to do that because I think I am actually going to end this video here. So there you have it. There is Stonesaga. I will continue this in part 2 and finish off the challenge. Still a lot more stuff I want to do. As I said, I want to check out the delving mechanics, see if I can make a rope, see if I can figure out how to make flint. I have to get more rocks and try banging different combinations together. But that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Certainly, if you made it this far, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see when I've got other videos coming out. I've got a few different things going on. I've got my Gloomhaven campaign, which is now 23 episodes in. I might dig out Puerto Rico again, give that a play, and of course, certainly I'm going to continue this Stonesaga campaign and do part 2, where we will see what happens once we finally complete the challenge, as well as exploring some of the other mechanics. Of course, I am new to this game, having only done the tutorial before this video. I'm sure I've gotten some things wrong. By all means, let me know. The little stuff, hopefully nothing too big, but definitely helpful for anyone watching the video to be able to check the comments and see, oh, that's how that's supposed to work. Helpful for me too. If you want to check out some of the other creative stuff I'm doing, I put a link for my website, dranthar.com. I've written a novel, fantasy novel. It is not about survival, but it is a pretty interesting story. So check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, until next time, and thanks for watching.